Hello everybody, NGS here and welcome back to Nanatsu Maken ga Shihai Suru, episode 12, which would be otherwise a finale, but it isn't, because this show is 15 episodes. Now it's updated on Analyst, because I believe it used to be 13 episodes and 2 OVAs, but now it's confirmed that the two additional episodes, 14 and 15, won't really be an OVA, but rather a continuation of the season, which is great, which is honestly amazing. I've been talking about it for a long time, that it would really benefit anime if it kinda strayed away from the limitations of 12 times 24. Because sometimes anime has a lot of padding, a lot of filler, or is way too slow because they need to pad it up to at least those 12 episodes, or at least up to those 24 minutes per episode. Sometimes it suffers because it has to fit 12 episodes, and the story meanwhile could use some more to develop. Sometimes episodes could really benefit from being like half an hour long, or maybe 40 minutes long, or sometimes shorter. So it's nice to see that there is, I'm not gonna call it a trend, it's far too early for that, but I'm glad to see that there is an anime, at least one in recent memory, that is breaking out of that 12 times 24 limitation, because it tells me that whoever is creating this show cares about it, cares about telling the story, cares about its quality, cares about not having to constrain themselves, and also about not having to add any filler. They decided they need 15 episodes to tell the story they want to tell, and thus 15 episodes. That's great. I'm really happy that it is the case. Right. So, anything else before we start? Right, if you're watching this episode, I'm not quite sure when it's gonna go up. First of all, it's a little bit late, so terribly sorry for that, but I had some friends over one day, and my friend recommended me a manhwa, above 10,000 people, it's called. And today, well, let's just say I just finished chapter 100, and I started reading it today. So I kinda got lost in that and didn't record this episode before noon, as I would otherwise do, to release it at 15:30 my time. That's like GMT +1 or something thereabouts, Polish time in any case. So I'm recording it instead at 3:52 in the morning. A little bit late, so it's going to go live tomorrow for me, today for you, obviously. And as you are watching this episode, I'm gonna be streaming in half an hour, or I'm already streaming, so check my channel. I'm gonna be streaming a look at the next season's shows, what's gonna be coming next season, what I'm gonna be watching next season, and also a little bit of a summary of my channel, what happened during that season, changes in subscriptions, in my Patreon revenue, yada yada yada. If it's of interest to you, you're welcome to hang out. If it's not, you can skip the first like 15 minutes of the stream and come back just for me browsing through Mal. And I guess that does it for housekeeping. So, episode 11, big battle that turned out to not be that big of a battle, actually. I was expecting something much bigger, I'm not gonna lie, but in the end, as the title of that video says, it wasn't really about the battle. it was about the characters. It was about their growth. It was about explaining who they are, about explaining their backstories, because we got a lot of insight into many characters. We got a lot of insight into Faye and Stacy, mostly into Stacy. We now know that she is Chella's half sister, and she actually was conceived with the goal, with the task of being Chella's replacement should the worst happen, because Chella's father has good genes or whatever, so he spread those genes across different family branches, and she was never as strong as Shella, but at the same time she was the strongest child of her of her non-biological father, and he resented her for that, because some other family branch man had better genes than mine, and this is not my daughter, and she's so much stronger than my children because of that man. So we have a lot of build-up resentment, build-up need to show off, need to be the best, perfectionism, shit like that. But Shella managed to diffuse that because she sees Stacy as a family. She sees her as a sister in any case. So that had a very good ending. We learned a little bit more about what's his face? Albright, I think, about his past. How his father was so incredibly demanding that an Albright can never lose. That he was playing chess with a friend and he lost to that friend, so the father, of course, beat him up for half a day. It was shown as if the father was using lightning spells, but you guys in the comments told me that it was the Crucio that Darius used on Katie, I believe, earlier on, and then killed that girl, killed her entire family, and destroyed their house, burned it down, because an Albright cannot lose. So it also explains a little bit better his determination to never lose, because by never losing, he's not only protecting himself from the pain his father might inflict on him, but he's also protecting whoever he competes with. Because say he lost to Oliver, his father would come after Oliver, and he cannot have it. So yeah, of course, he summoned the bees. Then Katie came in clutch, noticing that hey, there's a bee's nest. Guy came in clutch with his seeds that created a protective cage around them. Is my shirt dirty? Doesn't look that way, but it looks that way in the camera. Whatever. Right, they came in clutch. I love it. Secondary characters being actually useful for the story. How rare is that? Shella revealed her true form, which is that of an elf, and apparently it's not like a illusion magic or like transmogrification magic, but rather she is genuinely changing her body into a human body, if I understand that correctly. But yeah, she is an elf or a half elf, so a lot of the limitations of a human body when it comes to magic simply do not apply. So they were able to cast a dual cast, whatever it was called, which consists of 2 words, and a big blast destroyed all the bees. Then Nanao used some talk no jutsu against Albright, convinced him that hey, losing is fun actually, and he lost. Predictably so. As I hear in the source material, it was a little bit more expanded upon. Albright had an entire epiphany of standing before this peerless warrior who is not afraid of losing, and how can I be afraid of losing, yada yada yada. It wasn't really shown that way in the show, but whatever, adaptation was, of course. We got back to the surface, and oh no, before that, some beasts from the forest attacked and kidnapped Pete, Albright, and Faye. Again, from what I hear in the source material, that's where the volume ended, so you were left with a gigantic cliffhanger of are they even alive? But we got an after credits scene of a reveal that it is Ophelia who was consumed by the spell, or close to it at least, and she sent those monsters into the forest to kidnap people for whatever nefarious purposes. She even warned Oliver beforehand, but of course he didn't know what it's all about, so he didn't really heed that warning. And yeah, now we will probably form a rescue party, and we will have to save preferably everybody. The minimum plan is to save at least Pete and Faye. Albright would be a bonus. But we know they are alive, except with some hand-looking placentas attached to their necks and umbilical cords sucking away their life. I have no fucking clue what Ophelia is doing. But it really reminds me of the womb stage from Binding of Isaac. And I guess a little bit of Scorn, that HR Giger aesthetic, except without the HR Giger aesthetic, if it makes any sense. Okay. So, what do I expect from today's episode? Forming the search party, probably moving out for the search, and maybe the whole matter will be resolved in just this one episode, or maybe in episode 13, but then we would need a separate arc for episodes 14 and 15. I'm not sure. Yeah, because 3 episodes for an arc would be decent enough, but 2 episodes for an arc seems kind of short. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna try to make any predictions. It's easy to make predictions with when a show is like 12 or 13 episodes long, but when it strays away from that limitations of a single core, it becomes a little bit harder. But yeah, regardless, we should just stop talking because I've been talking for 13 minutes already and start watching. How about that? To watch it with me, you will of course need your subs down below to follow along with me. I'm going to need my sound to hear what is going on. And I'm gonna have to ask you for your support, monetary on Patreon or YouTube down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you nothing and helps a lot. And with all of that out of the way, we can start watching episode 12 of Nanatsu no Maken ga Shihai Suru in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, student council moving out. How come? Okay, so it was expected that Ophelia has something planned, but they didn't think she's gonna act quite this quickly. Okay. Why last? Are you planning on this being a suicide mission? Or something? Hopefully not. Or is it like the tail end of the school year and they are graduating? even then, I probably wouldn't say that it's a last adventure unless I'm literally graduating tomorrow. Because in a school like that, shit, anything can happen. Next thing you know, and next week, who's there on the list of characters? Cyrus Rivermoor gets consumed by the spell, and you have to fix that whole thing up. Or, I don't know, a dragon attacks. Or another teacher mysteriously disappears. Okay. Oddly enough, they aren't rushing straight into it, but rather leaving it to their upperclassmen. That's how you know it's not Harry Potter ripoff. How can you tell that he's dead? Okay, I guess it's fair making calculations like that. But that is also true. So Ophelia needs them alive, at least for a while. Hopefully for a long while. Nobody even had a chance to finish their fucking food, Shella. Chill out. Okay. Pulling the shadowy strings. Deep. Deeper than where we've been. Yeah, it would risk deconspiring the whole conspiration. Oh, hello. I really like his addition to the cast. Okay, so they have a whole whatchamacallit, a whole like procedure built around disappearing in the labyrinth. Basically, yes. And he also said no. Harsh, but fair. Meaning we all are going into the labyrinth. True. Okay. Yeah, and now you are feeling guilty. I mean, they're gonna head straight into the labyrinth anyway. Whomst. Oh, hello, Vera. You heading down there as well? And so is Katie. And so is Guy. Huh? I mean, I guess as long as Katie survives it and comes out of it unscathed. Slim. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bye. Interspecies communication. That was a line from the first ending of Dragon Maid, wasn't it? That's already a lot. And that's better than becoming a test subject. Yeah, I mean, that's infinitely preferable. Knowledge, research. What else? Okay, fair is fair. The rising music. And the sound of rain. Nanao? Yeah, of course she knew. Hmm. Oh, I mean, yeah, sure, fair enough. Katie and Guy are probably the weakest links of their entire bunch. Right, speaking of guy. Okay, yeah, he's staying. Makes sense. As I said. But, despite not coming with them, he's still being useful. Okay, some fancy lembas. Or like a fruitcake. The score! The music in the background, though. Of course, Katie would be fascinated by it. Well, you better. I mean, let's be honest, realistically, they will. Members of the main cast. If nobody of the main cast is dead at this point, it's unlikely that anybody of the main cast will be dead at all. On the verge of death, close to death, on the precipice. Sure. Even if they die, they will probably be resurrected somehow. Actually, a good question. How does necromancy and resurrection... We know that necromancy is a thing. What about resurrection spells? Are they a thing in this world? I assume they aren't, because people are still afraid of death. Yeah, that was easy to figure out. Okay, we've seen that in action. That she needs to borrow someone else's mana as well. Exactly. Okay, so she's not after the life force, but rather after the mana. And she's trying to give birth to something terrifying. Okay, so mana is vitality. Oh, is that why she isn't sucking Pete dry? Yeah. Pete isn't hooked up to the machine. Yeah. You are working together. You should share any information you have. Oh, hello. Are you joining us? Because he's not a human, and they were given orders to seek out humans. Males, to be more precise. Which begs the question, why was Pete kidnapped? Right? Assuming the chimeras were given orders to go after males. I guess if the chimeras were going by the looks, sure, but I somehow doubt they would be doing that. Rather, either some magical aura or scent or something like that. Okay, so she was a part of your bunch. She was a part of your bunch. Whomst? Oh, it's the, right. It's Laius. A bestiary? And a map. Okay, well, that's gonna be useful. Nope, he's a loner. He's a lone wolf. Exactly. All he needs is his trusty pan and some monsters to eat. And a couple of antidotes, just in case. I like how there is a whole, like, society and friendships and, you know, social links built completely besides our main group. That's an interesting looking sword. Impetus, probably not the best spell against something squishy. Yeah, Sectum Sempra is more like it. They learn. Okay. Ooh, okay. Well, that's smart. That's actually a very good point. If something is smart, you can outsmart it. Okay. Hmm. Fair. I mean, that's also fair. Don't try to, like, throw your life away at every opportunity you get. A tall order, but... but sure. Okay. So it's really shaping up for the finale of this arc to be an episode 13, and then episode 14 and 15 being its own arc. With like half an episode of overlay in either direction. And as is usual for this show, it really didn't feel like 24 minutes. Well, 22 and a half rather, but you know what I mean. Anything after credits, I wonder. And also... Let's see. Any news about season 2? Perhaps. I know that season 1 is not done yet, but just in case, you know, just in case. Oh. Possibility and episode 13. Noisy Forest. Okay, so we're still not gonna get to Ophelia, I assume. We're going... Okay, so episode 13 will be tearing our way through the second and through the second floor. Episode 14 will be tearing our way through the third floor, and the end of episode 14 will be the first half of battle with Ophelia, or confrontation, or whatever you want to call it, and episode 15 will be the resolution and the fallout. I think. Because let's watch it again, as always. But yeah, what I was trying to say is it makes sense that episode 13 will be going through the second floor, episode 14 will be going through the third floor, episode 15 will be the finale and the fallout. Because if episodes 14 and 15 were to be its own arc, why not end at episode 13 and keep this show to a single core, right? Episodes 14 and 15 are there for a reason, are there to continue some arcs started in earlier episodes. So yeah, it makes sense that the Ophelia arc will probably continue up until the end of the show. And yeah, no news about season 2, alas. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a season 2. This show really has really good production quality. It's captivating, it's original. Then again, Japanese viewers are known for their shit tastes. so it might as well just be axed, and I know smartphone isekai might be greenlit for season 3 and 4. That's the way the cookie crumbles, I'm afraid. Or shit, like Fooly Cooly can get another 3 seasons. Can you believe it? That Fooly Cooly is getting season, what, 5? 5 was it? I had to share it on my Discord because I just couldn't believe. Yeah, Fooly Cooly is getting season 5. I knew of season 2. When the fuck did seasons 3 and 4 happen? Because I completely missed any news about them. I completely missed them. Regardless. If our students have been kidnapped, it's our job. Yeah, because you are the student council. This entire thing is our fault because we were slow to act. If I screw up, take care of things, Al. Does Withrow have something more to do with Ophelia? Because she seems to put a lot of, like, sets a lot of flags, right? If I screw up, take care of things. Then later she says, oh, it's our last adventure. Let's go on our last adventure. Something's fishy. Something's fishy. Let me note it down just in case. That something really is fishy with Withrow. I'm not quite sure what yet. Okay, we are starting second page. Shit. Whoop. Some things fishy with Withrow. And a little mark to turn the page. Count. Okay. So something's fishy with her. Either she knows that she's gonna die in a week, or she has some history with Ophelia and is going to try to talk Ophelia out of it, or is going to try to go solo, stop Ophelia somehow. But in the event, in the case that she fails, she knows that she's gonna die to Ophelia, and if that is the case, Alvin Godfrey should take care of things and just, if it can't be done without harm to Ophelia, it has to be done with harm to Ophelia. That's about the vibe I'm getting from here. And also, Ophelia seems to be their old friend or acquaintance at least. It's been days. Interesting. Also interesting that I really thought, because other Magical Academy shows have conditioned me to expect that, and not just that, so did movies, so did books, so did every single piece of media, conditioned me to believe that if there's a crisis involving our friend, the entire friend group just bum rushes in to save their friend, maybe with like a day of preparation. But after they get prepared, they just bum rush. This is not it. This is not it. They are taking their time. They are waiting multiple days. They still believe that the upperclassmen, well, the belief about that is debatable, as you can see from the subs. But yeah, they are going through like proper channels, quote unquote, right? Like, if someone goes missing, you don't set on the search on your own, asking people around and visiting old warehouses and rappelling down a cliff to see if they didn't fell, or shit like that. You notify the proper people, you notify the police or whatever other bodies there are that can deal with that, right? That's like the proper channels, but the media conditioned us to believe that there are no proper channels. The only proper channel is the protagonists. If something is going on, the protagonists have to be involved in that, and have to be involved in that immediately, as soon as they get a whiff of it. Especially if it's about their friends. Then they should abandon all reason. this show breaks out of this mold. Yet again, breaks the mold. Getting emotional won't change a thing. There is nothing we can do this time. There really is nothing. This is also interesting because usually our heroes, our protagonists, are set up against antagonizing forces of about the same strength, preferably a little bit stronger, but nothing too hard to overcome. Right? Usually the protagonists know that, hey, it will be hard, but with the power of friendship, we can do that. This really shows that being consumed by a spell, especially if it's an upperclassman with like a succubus bloodline being consumed by a spell, it's serious shit. And first-year students have no chance. There's nothing they can do. They will go there just to die. They will go to slaughter. Interesting how much, I guess it was already shown by how meaningful secondary characters are in this show, like Guy and Katie, for example, but it also shows us how important secondary groups are. Not everything revolves around our main group of characters. There's the student council, who is also important for the plot and also moves the plot forward and also is being useful, for example, right? If she takes me to where Pete is, I can at least cook for him. Sure, I guess it's an idea, but you would just be hooked up to the umbilical cord and sucked dry for your mana. So it's, very wishful thinking. And on the other hand, Nanao is being way too pessimistic. Well, realistic, but bordering on pessimism. That, yeah, there's like 80% chance that Pete is already dead, so we might as well already treat him as such. That's realistic, that there's 80% chance of him being dead, but the pessimistic part is that we might already start treating him as such. There's no hope. There's no, way out, possibly. He's dead. Get used to it. But I guess her upbringing on the battlefield and all that would do that to her. She is true to her character. Also, again, another praise for a character. Who could have thought that I'm gonna be praising characters in this show, as if I don't do that every time I watch it. Nanao could very easily be just that airhead samurai girl with a superpower sealed within her. But no, there's depth to her. Her upbringing and her life so far on the battlefield didn't vanish the moment she got friends and started learning at school. It could have vanished. Nobody would be surprised if it did, but it didn't, because she's a well-rounded character that has her past, and her past still influences her, which again makes perfect sense that it does. And yeah, there must be a reason, of course, why they are being kept, why they were taken alive. This is cool. We are reaching for those shadows in the background, in the underbelly of this show, but we are not engaging in that plot. It is a resource that Oliver can potentially use, so he is going to try to make use of it, but we're not jumping straight into planning a hit on another teacher. Because again, it would be all too easy to make this subplot just a subplot. That we go through the school life, and then killing teachers, revenge, vengeance. We dip into that, and then we go back to school life, school life, school life, vengeance. School life, school life, school life, vengeance. But we are dipping into that even without moving that secondary plot forward. It makes it feel less like a split story that it otherwise would feel like, but rather both are parts of the same story. Those characters are still relevant even if they aren't plotting another hit with Oliver. Even if they aren't making sacrifices to Baphomet, right? They are still relevant to the plot. They don't magically appear only when they are needed. Cool. Third layer, so lower, one layer lower than we've already been, and second layer was already giving us some trouble. Tullio is here giving some encouragement. This is interesting. Teachers will not get involved unless like 8 days have passed. Interesting. It really, I guess, shows how ruthless this school is, that teachers are forbidden essentially from saving their students unless other students are unable to do that for like 8 days. Yeah, because I guess if you look at it from a purely like pragmatic viewpoint, it is a test, unscheduled, probably not on the curriculum, but it is a test to the students involved in it, to the student council or other groups who are sent out to deal with that situation, to the rest of the student body. Whoever is the weakest will die, as they should, because they are weak and they don't deserve to live. Whoever emerges victorious, well, they are clearly strong. And if the student council emerges victorious, well, they deserve to be the student council. If the student who was consumed by the spell emerges victorious, well, they deserve the results of the research, apparently. It's ruthless, but if you look at it from a purely pragmatic standpoint, it makes sense. If you completely take out the ethics out of the equation, it makes sense, actually, which is a common theme for how this school operates. If you take out the morals, it operates like a well-oiled machine. I'm sure this will sound cruel, but you mustn't get used to thinking that the teachers will bail you out of trouble. That's also another, like, lesson. You can't be getting used to someone bringing you out of trouble. This is essentially throwing those kids onto the deep water at the pool, trying to teach them how to swim. The weak ones will drown. The strong ones will learn how to swim. And nobody will take it for granted that a grown-up will hold them up. Again, ruthless but efficient. Not even Shella's father is getting involved. And again, making a statement that is very much in line for the school. If you lack the power to protect your friends, you lose them the moment you gain them. If you can't protect your friend, you don't deserve that friend. So they will be taken from you. And if your friend cannot protect themselves, they don't deserve to live. Mad. Mad, absolutely mad, but again, makes a very pragmatic kind of sense. Of course, Shella is going in because she's feeling remorse and guilt that she calculated that Pete will probably be alive, and so we should run and not go back there and fight for Pete. And now remorse has struck her. Yeah, I made a judgment call with the life of my friend. I didn't decide for myself, I decided for Pete. Can't let you go down there alone like you are now. Also, I like how big of a deal it is, how emotional everybody is. Right? This is like they are legit going to die. Right? Pete is so incredibly Oliver is so incredibly emotional. Later on, Guy is so incredibly emotional talking to Oliver. Again, we are used to seeing in media that going on a journey to kill a demon lord is like another Monday. The characters might get like a serious face and then sit down meditating and gathering their strength, or maybe honing their sword in silence, or stuff like that. But you rarely ever get such emotional preamble to an adventure, quote unquote, to an event, right? Like, you don't see in manga or anime or light novels, you don't see people being scared shitless of fighting the demon lord. And if you do, it's played for comedy. But you don't really see people being afraid for their fellows dying. The way Oliver is scared for Shella, the way Guy is scared for Oliver. You don't see that. You don't see characters being emotional. Milligan and Katie. Katie, of course, wants to sacrifice her body, quote unquote. I'll let you examine my body however you want if you'll save my friend. Sure, it sounds bad, but as long as the condition is and Katie emerges out of it unscathed, it's like more or less fine. Like, sure, if it means saving my friend, go ahead, sedate me, cut me open, take a look at my spleen. Why not? As long as you put that spleen back in and stitch me back up, it's a low price to pay ultimately, right? But of course, there's the fear that Vera will not stop at just looking at Katie's organs and looking at her brain, but rather she will want to take the whole thing out, slice it neatly into pieces, and take a look at each slice under like UV light or some shit like that. Which means Katie would probably not come back out of it unscathed. It was my choice, and you made it without talking to your friends at all. That's a little bit controlling of Oliver. Like, I know that he's coming from the right place, but he's essentially saying that Katie should not be deciding for herself unless the rest of the group is consulted, which is not the greatest thing to say, so to speak, right? I know that Oliver has issues with, like, losing his loved ones So he's probably talking from that standpoint, but still. It's cool though, because it shows that he is ultimately a faulty character. He's not a faultless protagonist. He has his faults. Ophelia is the same year as Milligan. 20% chances of survival. That's why she is looking for a partner. Not a research subject, a partner, which is really a great deal. Training from Milligan in exchange for Katie doing some research with Milligan. And who knows, maybe Katie will get a cool hand with an eye out of the deal as well, or some, I don't know, wings grafted on her back or something like that. Would be cool, actually. We don't really get many transhumanist characters in anime or manga or light novels. And if we get any, it's like in the context of cyberpunk fiction, but you rarely see, I know, the main character deciding to cut off his hand and grab the hand of a demon onto it to get like demon magic. That would actually be a great idea for a protagonist with special powers, right? I'm not even talking about like isekai cheat skill kind of deal, but even generic fantasy special skill that you can regenerate your body instantly and it doesn't have to be with parts of your own body. Huh. If I could draw, I would make it a manga. But I guess all I can do is make not even a light novel. Light novel is like a more like Japanese specific thing, but I can mostly just make it a regular novel or a novella or whatever. I'll think about it. It's an interesting idea. But with training, you might get a 1-up on her. You might be able to rescue a single friend. I wonder if that will be a factor. Do we save Pete and are satisfied with that? Or do we risk the whole operation and try to save Faye and all good, all bright, and all bright as well? I'm gonna note it down. Dilemma. Do we save Pete or do we risk saving everybody? That would be an interesting dilemma to have. In exchange, Katie will officially become my research partner. Yeah, very good deal, actually. And not even in a master-student capacity, but rather as equals. What is Milligan after doesn't matter at this point. It really doesn't. By offering that equal research partners, she already essentially ensured Katie's safety, that Katie will not be a test subject. So whatever other ulterior motives she might have are secondary at best. Of course, Nanao knew that they will be going. Katie is not going, which makes perfect sense. She is probably the weakest of the bunch. Guy can at least use his fancy plants to shield them, or maybe for some other purposes as well. Katie has that useful like monster repellent incense, But besides that, not really that much. The knowledge of magic fauna, I guess. So yeah, Katie is the weakest link, so of course for her own safety she will be staying here. And again, a lot of emotion. It's an incredibly emotional event for everybody involved. And for Guy, even. Yeah, get the seeds, they might come useful. Get some fruitcake. Yeah, he's trying to keep his composure. But it doesn't quite work. He's shaking, being incredibly emotional. And the music really elevates it all. It's genuinely the first time, I think, that I see people setting off for a dangerous mission in an anime being this emotional of an affair. Melee Hand. Yeah, Melee Hand is staying with Katie in case something happens to Milligan. And yeah, Pete is trapped but isn't being sucked dry. Salvadoris are succubi. We already kind of sort of knew that. We know that she can birth monstrosities with her womb. Multi-generational attempt to create the perfect life form, but it somehow failed. And yeah, this time she needs a lot of mana, so chances are she's not producing just a, random chimera. She's either producing a metric fuck ton of chimeras, or she's producing one fuck of huge chimera, or she's creating one fuck of strong chimera. I think it's the latter. Perhaps she's even trying to give birth to a pure succubus, bringing succubi out of extinction. I wonder. Ophelia. Ophelia's goal is to birth a pure succubus. This line or something much more terrifying, this line really made me think that it's probably not as simple as a really strong chimera or a lot of chimeras. It probably doesn't hurt to have your mana taken. I mean, if you're casting spells, it doesn't hurt either, and you're using mana, the mana is taken out of your body, so I would guess same rules apply. She's sucking away their vitality. That we didn't know. That mana equals vitality. She needs male mana only, yeah, sure, okay, but that still doesn't explain the relationship of vitality and mana, does it? Like, okay, we can just assume that your life force is equal to your mana, but it's never been mentioned anywhere, and it seems like a pretty significant detail. Like, the first thing you learn during your magic classes, that hey, if you cast a really big spell, you might burn your life away. Right? And it's not been mentioned anywhere. Also, just casting spells doesn't seem to weaken the characters physically. I guess technically they can run out of mana, although we've never seen anybody actually run out. But casting spells, big spells, casting them for a long time, doesn't make anybody physically tired. So is Ophelia taking out the mana and vitality both at the same time, or what's going on there? Nanao is of course correct. You are working together, and the more you know, both, all of you combined, the higher are your chances at success. If Vera is surprised by something, chances are she can get hurt or even die, and if she gets hurt, that can jeopardize your entire operation. So if there is a time to be honest with each other, this is it. Yeah, Ophelia is a hindrance, but she didn't kill Pete. She didn't just get rid of him, but rather she's skipping him. Is she hoping that perhaps Pete will turn back into a man? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if changes like that even follow any sort of a schedule, unless Ophelia can sense that he's close to a switch. Maybe, I'm not sure. Also, again, it raises a question about those chimeras. Presumably, they were ordered to go after male humans in the labyrinth. So why did they go after Pete? If Pete is not male right now? Did they go after Ophelia's imagination, like she remembered the faces of as many men at the school as she could, and those chimeras went after those faces? Because if they went after magic sense, normal senses, smell, looks, whatever, maybe not looks, but smell or whatever else, I assume they would treat Pete as a woman, because he is a woman right now. Unless they went by the looks, which I don't think they did. I guess I can note it down. That's a general question. Why did chimeras kidnap Pete if he's a woman? They didn't go after Katie, they didn't go after Michela, so it's not like they were kidnapping everybody, you know, no matter what. And yeah, the chimeras didn't chase him because, okay, he's a male, sure, but he's not a human, so he was left alone. Antidote, yeah, magic potions to protect against the perfume. As I see, the pain helps wake you up. Ophelia is to say the same thing. So they were a bunch of friends, used to be, and she also knows that Ophelia gets lonely. The white-haired chick that belongs to Oliver's cult also said something about Ophelia getting lonely. So they used to be a bunch of friends, but some rift came in between them. And I really like that there are connections between characters that have nothing to do with the main group. It's very common that we have the protagonist, and from the protagonist, there are relationships to others. And from those, that immediate circle of the protagonist, there are relationships to other characters, but ultimately, it's centered at the protagonist. Or in this case, a group of protagonists. If a character exists, they are bound to that net, and if they are not a part of that net, they just don't exist, essentially. In this case, we have our main group that's bound with their like relationship graphs. Then we have the group, the student council, and they are essentially connected with just the thread of Ophelia. But other than that, they create two separate nets, which is how it works in reality, in real world. There are separate groups of people, and neither of them is like the protagonist group. Yeah, and the relationships they are talking about, the relationship with, not with Vera, with Ophelia, it doesn't involve our protagonists. Because usually when someone's talking about someone else, it's probably the protagonist or some primary or secondary character. Not in this case. Laius is here, and here's the map of the 3rd floor. What do we have here? Danger, danger, danger. Encampments? Question mark. Castor required. I guess castor spell. Another encampment. No, caution required. Another caution required. Danger, danger. For encampment. Don't tfui. Don't hoot. I know what it says here in this circle. Don't something. More danger, more danger, more caution required. But hey, any map is better than no map, even if Ophelia's lair isn't mapped anywhere. And again, we have another relationship that is completely aside from the main group. We've met this character, sure, just in passing, but he is a relevant part of the world. He's not just a meme character who we will meet every now and then in the dungeon eating another monster. He's an actual being, he's an actual character, he's an actual person who has his own relationships and his own goals and his own aspirations and everything else. This show, and I guess I should say this story because it started with the light novel, really goes to great lengths to characterize everybody, to not have just empty facade characters that are just set dressing and nothing more. If someone has been named, if someone has been interacted with in some capacity, they are a person. Like, you can feel it. You can feel it that the author of the light novel has a whole, like, local wiki. Although we're talking about Japanese, so probably a page in some notebook or something where there is all sorts of details about every character. Laius here has probably like father and mother listed, their occupation, where he was born, what he likes, what he dislikes. Entire picture of a character is probably created. Entire folder for every character is probably created. You really get that feeling that they aren't just names and faces. They are much more than that. I work better alone. It's kinda... Is he gonna be like a... whatchamacallit? Tom Bombadil of this show? Appears, is helpful, then disappears again. But in this case, you can't save it without getting past it. Yeah, so we get some training from Vera. Understand your foe's idiosyncrasies. This one's blind, so we can exploit that. We create some decoys. It focuses tentacles on the decoys, and then you are really fast to outrun those tentacles, and you deal some damage with the wrong damage type, I would say, but still. Lesson 3, make sure everything you do leads up to one decisive blow. It's learn to ignore the decoys, but we can exploit that. Decoys move slow, enemy moves fast. That's what it's learned. So now we start moving the decoys fast, and we start moving slow. So it mistakes us. You can exploit its learning. You can exploit its smartness. If your enemy is smart, there is a potential to outsmart them. If your enemy is dumb as a rock, you can only overpower them. You cannot outsmart them. You cannot outwit them. This is interesting. This is interesting. Being smart, being able to learn can also be seen as a weakness, because others can learn the way you learn and then exploit that. Observing a creature, finding its weak spots, and putting a plan into action. So it doesn't have to be all the same person, of course. I initially assumed that perhaps Oliver can observe, Shella can find weak spots, and of course Nanao will put it into action. The berserk of the group that she is. But no, we are all doing everything. All three of us will do all these three things together. It will probably organically come out who actually does what. Right? Like, if Nanao doesn't notice some weakness, chances are maybe Oliver will be better at noticing those weaknesses. So organically, he will be the one who notices them first. But trying to decide that from the get-go, not a good idea. So I'm glad they did away with it. We'll make it work. Try to keep up. So we are going into the forest first. Yeah, let's go get her. Just a random little vignette. Next time, Noisy Forest, the forest of the second floor, of course. Right. Right. That was episode 12 of Nanatsu Maken ga Shihai Suru. And as always, it was a good episode. I mean, what else can I say? I don't really have any criticism for it. Yeah, I guess this time around, I legit don't really have any criticism for it. I thought that I might criticize it for the fact that Vera teaching them didn't really seem like much teaching, that she defeated just one chimera and then you're taught, cool, we're done here. But I thought for some reason that she just left back then, but no, she's going with them, so she's going to be teaching them all throughout their journey. So any criticism I could have had there is completely discarded and disregarded. I already talked about characters, how much I like that they are real and their relationships are real, like realistically laid out. How our protagonists are not the center of the world. They are the center of the story. Make no mistake, but they are not the center of the world, which is great. Already talked about how realistic everything works, from the whole like chain of well, not chain of command, but the whole like procedure that is in place for eventualities like that it exists and it's actually being adhered to, instead of our main characters just rushing off somewhere into danger and then coming back and winning the Gryffindor Cup because they got 50,000 points from Dumbledore at the last moment. Nothing of that sort is happening. Everybody's actions and reactions are fairly realistic, all things considered. So hey, that's cool. Also, because of that, I thought that this arc will be much shorter. Because I genuinely thought that in this episode they will just form a search party, and there's not gonna be a time skip or anything. They're just gonna be like, all right, well, shit, guess we have to go back and save Pete, and they just go back. And by the end of today's episode, we are at Ophelia's lab, knocking on the door, trying to get in. Or maybe even the first half of the battle with Ophelia already starts. But no, this show has a much more methodical pacing, and it actually includes things like actually having to get to her lair, actually having to fight their way through the second and the third floor. Right? They're not gonna get there magically. Oliver is not gonna cleave them a path. Right? If anything, that's also interesting. If anything, it would be Nanao who cleaves them a path, because Oliver, besides his spell blade, he's not all that strong comparatively. Which is interesting for a protagonist, isn't it? Anything else that I have to say about this episode? The series being 15 episodes long threw me off. I guess I can mention that again. I guess I thought that it's gonna be much faster, because I thought initially that it's gonna be 13 episodes plus 2 OVAs, and I thought that Ophelia's arc has to be done by episode 13, for episode 14 to be a beach episode, and episode 15 to be killing another teacher or something thereabouts. But no, it is full 15 episodes. Nothing has been separated into an OVA really. So the timing, of course, changes, and we can allow ourselves to take a little bit longer with the story progression, really. Okay, I think that's it. I don't think I have anything more to say, because if I keep talking, I'm just gonna keep spinning in circles, talking about the same things. And I'm also a little bit sleepy. You can probably hear me slur my speech every now and then. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I can hear it. Maybe you can't. Whatever. But maybe you guys have something more to add, and if so, say so in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode, of my reaction, of my theories, stuff like that? No spoilers, please. If you do want to talk spoilers, my Discord is here, also linked in the description. That's where you can discuss spoilers in the Nanatsuma Maken ga Shihai Suru channel. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, but tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases of not only Nanatsuma Maken ga Shihai Suru, but also Magia Record, Helck, Zom 100, Undead Girl Murder, Farce, Ancient Magus Bride, and others coming at you in the future. I also stream sometimes, so click the bell to be notified of when I go live. I'm gonna be streaming today. I might already be streaming in the process, or I might be done with streaming for today. I'm not sure. Check out my YouTube page to know more about that. Support the channel, of course, if you want, monetarily on Patreon, linked down below, where for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonal shows and Magia record, and for just $1 you get a roll onto Discord and a place in the credits. And if you otherwise want a roll and you want to support me directly on YouTube, the support buttons are also down below. If you don't want to spend any money though, that's also perfectly fine. Share my content, spread the word. It costs you absolutely nothing and helps the channel a lot. And now, with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff. And I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my wonderful patrons: QB Without a Net, The Cripple Survivor, Zetrin, Zayrain, Arakamancer, Marsh, Fassel, Dr. Wotuki, Alain, Hans Peter, and you can join them without the need to organize a search party.